Welcome to Samutsari, Conversations with Mimi, a weekly podcast by Social, also a member of the Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate. Samutsari is where we can show that ordinary people do extraordinary things. Tune in to be entertained and to learn something new with your host, Mimi Lorilla.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Samutsari, Conversations with Mimi. So this is a podcast by Mimi Lorilla, and I am very happy today that because I have somebody special who's my co-host slash guest for this episode, and I'll introduce her to you now. She is Ana de Guzman. Hi, Ana, and welcome to Samutsari.
Hi, Mimi. Thank you for having me here in your show. Samutsari, congratulations, by the way. I know you just started last week, if I'm not mistaken. Was it last?
Yes, last week. Okay, so
I believe it was a story video of who you are. Well, anyway, yeah, I watched that.
Thank you. How did you find my first episode?
It's a great way of starting your first episode because, you know, the first thing people have to do is to be able to relate to you somehow so that you don't just come into their rooms as a stranger, you know.
Yeah.
That's why I like you started off with that introductory video. Yeah, nice.
That's good. And Anna, just to let you know that this podcast is mainly targeted for Filipinos overseas or Filipinos abroad. But of course, if we reach farther than that, then obviously we can, reach out to maybe fellow Filipinos who are like you, still in the Philippines. But the target is really to reach out to as many Filipinos and non-Filipinos all over the world. So you have to start somewhere, like you said, and to reach one or two people from here at the moment, I'm really quite happy with that. But I'm hoping that my audience base will grow eventually. Okay, so Anna, can you tell the audience a little bit about your professional self? What are you doing at the moment, and what are you busy with? What's going on in your professional life?
Well, first of all, I'm teaching. We just ended the term at DLSU where I'm teaching right now, and I've been teaching for more than 20 years. And currently, teaching in LaSalle is just my sideline. But my main job is, of course, as a content writer for a webpage for the company we have in Australia that's catered for clienteles that are based in Nepal and India, and hopefully worldwide.
Wow. So you are also like Miss International.
Oh, yes.
You're working for an overseas company. You are in the Philippines, and the target market is also from different countries. So that's great. So you really fit the bill. Okay. So Anna, my show is mainly targeted to women, but of course, it is not to say that men are, hecha puera, as we want to call it like that. Definitely the males would benefit from our exchange of information, and the purpose of my podcast is really to share what we can to contribute to other people's, something positive rather than just hearing those negative messages. We want to inspire them. We want to share new information, maybe things that they don't know. But today our topic is a very common topic. Obviously, when you say COVID-19, there's nobody who doesn't know that. Even little kids know what COVID-19 is. And I want to add to the discussion or to the debate or to many information available about COVID-19. And we would like to talk about the emotional and psychological aspects of how you are affected by this COVID-19, especially being a woman with many, many hats. So, and thank you for starting a little bit of the research for this topic, because Anna is so, what do you call that, Anna? You're very diligent. You've done your homework. You've researched about this. And I think what we can do is get started with why we need to talk about the psychological and emotional well-being of women during this time of COVID-19. So, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, maybe when this COVID thing started, I mean, I wasn't one of those people who felt the stress of being under lockdown or not being able to go out. I mean, for the first 2 weeks, I was like getting the hang of it. I did not feel any stress at all. But then, when the quarantine started to be extended, like here in the Philippines, we're now on our 56th day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, we're already on our 56th day. So it has its mental, it has taken its mental toll on me.
Yeah.
There was a time that I even, cried because, as you have said, I had to fill so many hats. I work from home, and you're a mom. You have to take care of the food, what my husband has to buy outside and make sure he buys the correct thing, right?
Yes,
He doesn't
exactly.
end up buying the wrong thing
Yeah.
because we're doing the marketing and all that. So, what's interesting to know, I think, is if what the kind of stressors I'm experiencing as, a female in a developing nation is the same as the kind of stressors you're experiencing from somebody who's in a developed nation, right? So, I mean, to tell you honestly, the impression I had was like, with developing nations, their only problem is about toilet paper.
We started with toilet paper and it moved to other items as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was having this impression that they we have it harder here on our end because we have to worry about, there are people losing jobs, and some companies have to pay their employees half of what they usually take home, considering the fact that they still work from home. And one thing I realized is that working from home is so difficult. It's difficult.
Okay.
Because a lot of things are eating your time, everybody wants your attention, like your kid. You have to tutor your kid who's doing online classes, right?
Mhm.
You have to think of what you're going to cook for dinner, for lunch, etc. You're going to think of, okay, what's on my shelf right now? What food do we need? How long will this last me? Those sorts of things. They may sound trivial, but if you keep doing them, and if this is something you have to encounter every day of your life, it does take a toll on your emotions and on your psyche.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
Yeah. So based on what you've mentioned so far, I picked up on some definite stresses. Can we call that as stresses or stress factors or stress enablers?
Stressors.
Yeah, stressors. So one is anger, because you're not used to being in this kind of situation, and sometimes you feel angry. Why does it have to happen? You start questioning things. The other thing that I picked up on what you're saying is the feeling of uncertainty, anxiety, because suddenly your normal routine has become out of whack.
Oh, yes.
And then the other anxiety is the financial aspect of that, because you mentioned that you're working from home, but still companies aren't able to provide you with the regular pay that you're getting. And as in the case of anywhere all over the world, we also have our own version of ayuda here. But definitely your version of ayuda is different. But it's the struggle to maintain your status quo. It's the struggle of how am I going to make do with the little that I have, and how trustworthy is the government in terms of giving me this ayuda or support. So can you tell me your experience around that? Yeah, can you tell me a little bit of insight?
Well, where do I start? Well, when this thing started, I feel so blessed that we're under the mayorship of Isko Moreno. I'm sure our Filipino listeners would, I think they know him already. He's very active he really has a genuine concern for his constituents and those that are under him. And so as soon as the quarantine hit, he was already up and about trying to prepare food to give out That was his first goal, was to give out food packs for families in Metro Manila. So he had to go down and ask the barangay chairmen to give names of those families who are under their barangays. And so we thought that we're going to receive aid like during the first week or 2 weeks upon announcing it. And lo and behold, we received our first ayuda, as you might say. The first ayuda we received was not a food pack. It was not a food pack. The first ayuda we received was 1,000 pesos. If we will convert that to Australian dollars, if I'm not mistaken, that's just 20, not even 20, right? Or 20,
maybe around
30?
around 30,
30?
25 to $30.
Yeah, 30 Australian dollars, right? So, well, it may not be a lot, but it's still money anyway that could tide you like for a week, right? And then after that, we did not hear anything else from our barangay, and it stresses me out because you would see posts on Facebook. You will hear, I would receive messages from my friends online saying, "Oh, naka-receive na kami, pang-5 na naming ayuda to. This is our 5th tranche. You haven't you have received only one."
So
right?
what was the hold up? What was the issue? Where does the chain of this ayuda get blocked? That reason why some barangays get more, and in your case, your barangay only got one. Who does the decisions around the rotation of the ayuda?
I guess it's like this. The barangay got the list of names of families from the list of voters, right? And that could be problematic because there could be voters who are no longer part of the community, who may have already transferred somewhere else. And there may be people who have already died who still belong to the list. And I think that the problem comes in when they have to reconcile the names and all that. But there's really nothing I could think of, and there was even a point in time where I started to think, oh, maybe they took our ayuda for their own keeping.
Yes, right? Yes, you cannot help but think about that. Yeah.
Yes. But then I wanted to vent out online through Facebook, which I have somehow done in the gentlest manner. I'm that I could think of sarcastically. So we just received the second ayuda today. I don't know if you've seen my Facebook post, but it was the spaghettis with the spaghetti noodles with the sauce.
Yep.
And the rice, right? So, I think the problem comes in when people have vested interest to what they're supposed to give out to the people they serve. That's I guess that's deeply rooted in our society, I guess, with the kind of governance we're having here for the longest time. But I could say all's well that ends well. We have already received our ayuda. In some cities, I guess they've already received numerous ayudas or help from the mayor's office. So that's good. And the government has even taken its own initiative of providing SAP, Social Amelioration Program.
Are you part of the SAP?
No, unfortunately, I don't belong. I don't qualify because I have a job, right? I just work from home.
Yeah.
But then, there's this issue right now because I think the government released trillions of pesos for that. Trillions. And, the we're having right now is that tonight, we're waiting for Duterte's decision whether to extend the quarantine for another 15 days or to extend it until June 15.
I see.
Now that's another month. Yeah, so
there's so many factors because your situation is different. There are more Filipinos to give the ayuda to compared to here in Australia, although there are a huge number of people that have suddenly become unemployed. But their own ayuda system is not given through actual goods. They have a.
But then
that they have to qualify to get some money.
Yeah. And I know, and I thank the government for doing this step, and I know their heart is in a good place when they did this. However, I believe they could have channeled their resources uh, to other avenues. For example, devoting it to buying testing kits so everybody could be tested, right? Because what's the point of extending if we wouldn't know how many are infected and how many are not, right? We cannot just extend the quarantine if we don't know the numbers, Mimi, right?
That's true.
If we don't know.
Here, Australians pride themselves around the fact that we've tested almost 1 million people, and
Wow.
they're telling us now that even the slightest of symptoms, like for example, I have itchy throat, I have sore throat, or I have colds,
Right.
make sure that it's not flu or it's not COVID or either. You have to get tested.
Wow.
So that's the
Wow.
priority. The priority is testing, but they've also given out unprecedented amounts of money to support the people financially. But some of the politicians are also saying that it should not be like a long-term solution. Otherwise, the reserves, whatever dollar reserves they have, will obviously run dry
Yeah.
as well. Okay, so anyway, that's the global overall big picture stuff. But if you go back to the individual self, I think some people are complaining, and based on this article that we are reading, they are feeling either frustrated or bored while they're on quarantine. And they also feel a sense of loss in terms of the human or physical contact with other
Oh,
people.
yes.
So is that the same where you are at the moment? Because in a given household, there are more people in a small area, as opposed to here,
Yeah.
you have a slightly bigger house, but lesser number of people. So I don't know how the boredom or diminished social and physical contact plays out in the Philippine context.
mm Well, here, you know, our houses are totally different from the kind of communities you have there. Our community, rather, is different from the kind of communities you have there, in a way that you have big yards where you could go out and maybe, walk a bit or have a picnic, or, have a feel of fresh air or something. We don't have that luxury here in the kind of community that we have. We don't have backyards. The doors open to the main road. So, there's people traveling out there. By saying, yes, there are not a lot of people, but there are people outside, and you're really trying your best to stay indoors and, protect yourself from COVID. But, there's such a thing as cabin fever. It's not really having fever, but it's called cabin fever, and it's the feeling of isolation. So much so to the point that you're itching to go outside, or it actually affects you in such a way that you feel depressed because there's nowhere to go, right? The feeling of claustrophobia, right? It's a good thing that in our house, how Filipino houses are, you don't just live with your main family. I live with my in-laws live upstairs, and my mother and father-in-law are upstairs, and my brother-in-law and his family are beside us. So there's a sense of getting in touch with the people you love. I think it would be harder if it were just the three of us, like me, my husband, me, and my daughter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It would be different. It would be difficult. And there are houses here that are compounds, right? Where in a housing there would be 4 or 5 families living. So I think the sense of isolation only kicks in when you have nowhere else to go except your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, your bathroom, etc. We don't have the luxury of having our own yard,
Yeah.
sprawling gardens for that matter. We don't have that luxury here. So, you know, are we bored? Yes, there are times we do get bored because you're doing the routine things. You're doing the same thing over and over again. I think we've finished a lot of shows on Netflix, right? And what's what's there to watch? I think one thing that I've gained from this is, having to develop myself. So I've taken courses online that are for free, right? And
Of
I'm sure a
course.
lot of people around the world have taken that initiative as well.
Yeah.
So, I think this is the new normal.
Yeah, it's a new
But
normal.
hopefully, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay.
Amy.
So you are lucky because your bubble is a little bit bigger. You have your in-laws and your brother-in-law and his family in your compound. It's not like you have just your nucleus, the nuclear family. Or
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So the other thing that you probably experience is the sense of conflict between working from home, like you're actually finding the time to do what you need to do. So this is the same situation as myself. I work from home, and the what do you call that? The temptation to do your household chores. You know,
Oh,
the things. Yeah.
yes.
But I'm telling you now, I also am guilty of that temptation. But despite the fact that there's an opportunity to do more cleaning, more
Oh,
dusting,
yes.
more arranging the sock drawer sort of stuff, I just left it because although I know I should do it, I'm technically working from home. So I feel guilty both ways. I feel guilty not being able to do more for my house chores, but I feel
Mhm.
guilty if I do it and then I know that I have to work as well. So
It's
it's
hard to strike
finding
a
the
balance,
balance.
right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
feel
it's
the
hard
same
to
way?
strike a
Do you feel the same way?
balance. Oh, yes. Because there's a certain level of, you have to be consistent with your work output even though you're working from home. Because their thinking is, I guess my bosses are thinking, I don't know, this is just my assumption. You have more time on your hands to do
Yes.
your work. But then, come to think about it, you have more than just, you have more than just your think of. As I told you earlier, you have to think of what you're going to do, what you're going to cook next, right? Do I have to defrost the meat now? Is it time? Do we have enough meat left, etc.? Especially now that my washing machine bogged down on me, right? So we're doing our laundry by hand. Would you believe it's a good thing that the spinner is still okay, so I don't have to wring out the clothes by
Oh,
hand.
yes. The spinner is more
Oh man,
important.
yes. So the struggle is really there. The struggle. I mean, I have to be honest with you. Domestic demands is eating up more of my time than my work. And there are times I'm sorry, I have to attend to them
Mm.
first before work.
So if there are other people like us who are also struggling, what's one strategy that you can suggest in order for them to feel a bit more in control, so that they don't feel overwhelmed and don't let the temptation kick in order to strike a sort of balance?
Yeah. I think what people have to do is to learn how to prioritize. And the way you would do this, and I'm sure this is something you already know. We taught this in LaSalle. It's do a Johari window, right?
Mm.
So what's important for you to accomplish this out on the left side now, so you could just set it aside, right? So you have to come up with a Johari window or just a list of what needs your attention now, right? And what you need to attend to at a later part in life. And you have to learn also how to meal prep. I don't know if that's a thing in Australia. Do you meal prep?
So by meal
Because
prep,
when you
do you
meal prep,
mean,
you
for
cook.
example, in the evening, I will already chop whatever I need to chop, marinate what I need to marinate. So the next
Yeah,
day,
so sort of
I'm
that,
already
but
ready.
it's actually having the time to cook meals for the next 3 days.
Oh, I do
Something
that
to
all
that.
the time. I do that all the
Oh,
time.
there
To
you
the
go.
point, to the
There you
point
go.
that my family they are so sick of the same food.
They're complaining
Because I
of
keep
eating the
telling
same
them,
stuff.
don't complain because some people don't have enough food to eat. So now I'm pre-cooking everything, and so that all they need to do is
That's
reheat,
true.
reheat, reheat until we can come up with the next best dish. So I
True.
rotate my dishes. I have a cycle like fish in 2 days, chicken another 3 days, beef pork another 2 or 3 days. So they rotate
You have to
because
show me that list.
I need to
Yeah,
cook a lot because I don't have the time to cook like
during the
lunch
day.
dinner every
Right.
day. No
Right.
time.
Right.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
Um, I want to talk about a slightly sensitive topic, and this is around the frontliners. So we know that the frontliners are the nurses, the doctors, the people that are working in the health system, and some of the basic or essential workers, the workers that work in the grocery shops, the people that are what do you call that, delivering the goods and services to the
Mm-hmm.
community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the more sensitive issue is around those frontliners who have been affected by COVID-19 themselves. There is a stigma around the fact that you've
Oh,
gotten
yes.
the COVID-19, and
Yes.
a lot of people don't want to stay near you, or they think that you are a second class citizen, or that you have this disease or something, and they're the ones that are putting their lives in the line of fire, so to speak. So I've been hearing stories around that, but in your experience, or what you observe, or what you hear, what are the general sentiments around those victims of COVID-19 who have recovered?
You know, we're talking about frontliners here, and there have been cases. I'll cite one. There was this nurse who was on his way home, and he was spewed with bleach on his face, right? Simply because people, I don't know what was on the mind of these people who spewed bleach on his face. It's a good thing he did not lose his eyesight, right? But I've been hearing a lot of stories from frontliners themselves who have experienced discrimination. Like for example, somebody who's living in a condominium experienced, their neighbor saying, chiding some remarks while he was on his way down, waiting for the elevator, or distancing themselves. I mean, people, frontliners, are helping us fight this battle against COVID. It should be more than, uh, we should just be more than thankful for them, for putting their lives, as you have said, Mimi.
Mm.
They're the frontliners who put their lives at risk, and these frontliners have families that they don't end up going home to at the end of the day, simply because they might infect their families, right?
Mm.
So there are stories of frontliners facing discrimination. As a matter of fact, here in Metro Manila, Mayor Isko came out with a bill that frontliners, whether you're a healthcare worker down to those people who are uh, delivering food like via Grab or Lalamove, should not be discriminated on. And anybody who will discriminate on these people will be penalized or put in prison, depending on the degree of offense.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it doesn't have to go to that point, but it has come to a point wherein this law has to be passed to prevent this from happening again.
Mm.
It's already stressful that you are already working in an environment where you could actually get infected, or you're putting your life in danger, right? And then you go home, and people are like staring at you, or distancing themselves from you because you're wearing a scrub suit or something. That's, let's not lose our sense of humanity, people.
Yeah.
That's where this, yeah, it's so sad that this thing is happening, because you don't know the struggle that they are facing, and then to add to that is what they have to face going home.
Mm.
And there are some healthcare workers or even frontliners who don't get the luxury of being at home with their loved ones. I have a friend in the States who's actually sleeping at the broom closet of their house, because that's the only room available for him to sleep on, that would not endanger the lives of the rest of his family members. It's like when you go home and you want your child to hug you, and your child cannot even hug you, right? It's
Yeah,
hard.
it's really tough. Yeah, that's true. So I think that is one of the other manifestations that has been mentioned in this article from the Journal of Psychology, that because
Yeah.
of uncertainty, or you don't know how to react to this sudden change. And it's not a small change.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like a bombshell that was
Oh
just
yes.
dropped without any warning. So the people who are reacting this way must be one of those people that are mentioned in the article. That's they said that that's the psychological effect. You begin to think things that may not make sense, but
Yeah.
human being as you are, you've started to manifest those negative thoughts, negative energy, and that spills over to other people. So
Yes.
instead of thinking about the good that we can contribute, instead of thinking about the welfare of others who might be in a more dangerous situation than we are, then we have the time and the energy to put, throw bleach on their
Yes.
faces or
Yes.
discriminate them. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
anyway, I hope that the listeners don't feel that that the situation is so dire. Is it really that dire, or is there like something positive that comes out of this COVID-19? What can you say about that?
I would like to believe that, people, there's no point thinking about the negative outcome. I mean, we're already in a negative situation as it is. The only choice you could make is, think of the positive outcome. How would you come out of this situation as a person at the end of it all, right? I would like to believe that there's something good that's going to happen at the end of this all. It would affect us. I mean, it would prove that number one, we are resilient, right? Number two, that we are capable of enduring hardship, right? Um, Number three, I believe that it has made families closer. For me, that's the best thing that has come out of this situation. There was a time wherein I would leave the house 5:15 in the morning. I won't even see my daughter get up and go to school anymore. And the moment I get home, I would be preparing dinner, right?
Mhm.
And by the time she finishes dinner, she's ready to go to sleep. So
Yes.
basically, there was little or no bonding at all, and the only time we get to
Yes.
bond would
Yeah.
be on the weekends, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing that has come out of it, is I was able to bond with my daughter, with my husband, right? And realizing that we're here for each other, I guess, is that we're here to support each other, is the best thing that has
Yes.
come out of it, right? And we have
Yeah.
become better persons because of this situation.
I agree. So all overall, it is bad, but it's not totally bad. So there are still some good
Yes.
outcomes out of this situation, and we're just hoping that potentially we can return to what will be the new normal. A lot of our routines will become different. The ways that we interact with people will become different. The ways we treat hygiene, sanitation, health in general will be different. And I hope that
Yes.
anywhere around the world, people will become more optimistic about what's going to happen now. And they call this the post COVID 19. So after
Yes.
the fact, what's going to
Yes, there
happen?
is.
Mm, yeah.
Based on the article that you're citing, which is from Psychology Today, who the author is, I'm so sorry. The author cited that there are other stress factors post COVID, right? And one thing, I guess, if we have to say something to those who are listening to us, we have to be ready for more changes, right? And we have to learn how to adapt, because for some people it's hard to deal with change, right? Because
True.
you've been doing things routinely for the longest time, right? So
Hmm.
the hardest thing is for you to adapt. So first is, maybe you have to acknowledge that things have changed and that there is a need to adapt, you know because the moment you deny, I don't think there's no progress, going after that, if you have that thought. And if we are going to go back to our usual workplaces, and we're going to earn the same amount of money, or for if we're thinking of earning extra income, I think it's the time to save. Because one thing I realized is that this thing happened in the middle of, as you've said, it dropped like a bomb. I mean, if you did not have any financial resources to work with, you'll be grappling with struggles right now, right? Even
Yeah,
out of the
which is
legs, and
a
that would not
majority
be
of
the best
people.
situation to
That's
be
true.
in, right?
Yeah, a majority of
So,
people have felt that. Yeah.
So it's better that once we're allowed to go out here, we call it general quarantine, ECQ, GCQ. Once we're allowed to do that, I guess, and we're back to our normal working conditions, and we're receiving the same amount, if not more than the amount of money that we're receiving, I guess you have to set money aside for things like this, because you can never tell what will happen next. It's money, it's a money that you set aside, because if there's one stressor that can really take your spirits away from me, is having to think of paying bills, expenses, right? And if you don't have enough resources to work with, you did not have anything set aside for such conditions. I mean, it's hard. It's going to take its mental toll on you one way or the other. I mean, I've experienced different stressors, and financial stressors are the worst things to cope with, because right now you feel helpless. It's not as if you own the company and work with, you could stay, make your this company stay afloat, and make your employees survive this entire situation. So I guess that's one thing we should learn, is to set aside money, so that in any situation, imagine me here in the Philippines, we experienced Taal volcano erupting last February, right? And now we have COVID. I mean, if there were no financial resources to work with, I don't know where we would be right
and
now.
I think,
so I think that's the best thing I could say to anybody who's
So,
listening out there.
And finally, I think the one thing that we can probably also do is hold on to our faith, because that should at least help
Oh,
us
yes.
internally, emotionally, psychologically. That should
Yes.
that should be
Yes.
something we can draw a little bit of our strength from. And I find myself doing a lot more meditation, affirmation, things that through my faith would make me think more positively, so I won't spiral down in this negative,
Yes. Yes.
negative situation. You
Yes.
cannot afford to lose yourself. You have to get a grip, and you have to hold on tight, and you
Yes.
have to be able to climb slowly up in spite of the challenges. This situation teaches us also how to be,
It's
like you
true.
said, how to be resilient, and how to have faith and hold on to hope that things will get better. Okay, you agree about that? You agree that
Yes.
that's one
Yes.
of the things
Yes.
that
Oh, yes.
mm,
Yeah. I guess everyone has found themselves in the situation where, even if they don't believe in a higher being, they have talked to somebody they think would be higher than them, who help them out. I mean, I'm thankful that, like, in our church, we're having daily devotions online twice. We have it every morning, and we have our nightly services, and we have our Bible studies, and it does help having to have that spiritual grounding intact. you
mm,
know
that's true.
uh, it helps you with your mental state. It helps you think that everything's going to be okay. I mean, if not for our faith, I don't think we would survive things as easy. I'm not saying we survive easily. I don't think we could have survived it as how we have already survived it without faith, right?
That's right. So I think, at least in a way, this would really make us think about how we can improve ourselves as people, how we can become
Yes.
more attuned to other people's needs, not just ourselves, and how we can practice the longest patience. If it's a stick, the longest stick. How long is a piece of string? We have to be able to extend and extend as much as we can. Well, Anna, I really want to continue chatting with you, but I think we have to end our our program for now. But I'm not too worried about that because we've already agreed that there will be a part two. There will be a
Oh,
part two of this.
yes.
We will be talking about office, the work, a day in the life of something like office related and some controversial stuff around that. And I've told my listeners in the first podcast that I used to be working in radio, and I have received a number of letters that I
I
had
remember
just
Ray.
kept in an email. I have already looked for that letter that we will talk about when you come back to my show. So at today we won't be reading any letter because we're just focusing on just unpacking some of the issues
Oh,
around
sure.
COVID and how we articulate that, what we feel, what we experience at the moment. So people who can hear us or listen to us or watch us will say, okay, I'm not alone in this. Other people are also feeling the same way. So in that way,
Yes. Yes.
hopefully they can feel a little bit more relieved. So Anna, thank you
Yes.
for coming to my show today. And I also
Thanks
want
for
to
having
thank,
me.
yep, thank you also to Guerrilla Podcast Syndicate that we are all a member of. So I'm also promoting them, and maybe some of our listeners or viewers would like to listen to the other podcasts as part of the syndicate. So there's a lot of different topics. There's lifestyle, there's technology, there is something around financial management, something about specific skills or specific industries. And I said in my first podcast that our show is focused more around, just casually talking about hot topics that maybe women would be interested to learn about or know more about. So Anna, thank you very much. This is not the end. We'll have a part two. Maybe there will be a
Oh,
part three. Who
yes.
knows?
I look
So
forward to that.
so thank you, Anna, and I hope that we've inspired people today.
Thank you. I had a great time, and I look for our next podcasts.
Okay, goodbye, everybody, and hope to see you in the next episode. Bye.
If you find value in this episode, make sure you like and subscribe to be notified of new releases. If you have any questions or suggestions, please reach out to Guerrilla Podcast or send us an email at mimi@dinosocial.com. Spread the word and don't forget to tune in next time.